Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I'm here to help you finish your Christmas shopping list and let everyone else over there stiff-arm their competition while trying to fight off that tryptophan on Turkey Night. Now, what we did was we partnered with Rochester Sports Autographs, the largest JSA authenticated autograph distributor in the United States, where you can get up to 75% off over 30,000 autographed sports collectibles during this holiday season. They have something for everyone. But how is RSA able to offer such great deals on JSA authentication, you ask? Well, they do this by making deals directly with athletes so there are no extra markups, and they choose to then pass that savings on to you, the customer. Now, all orders from Rochester Sports Autographs are top quality and shipped to your door with top authentication and a money-back guarantee. But hurry up because customers are so stark raving mad for RSA that memorabilia sells out daily. All you have to do is head over to shoprsa.com/SHN. Again, that's shoprsa.com/SHN. So don't wait to bring home your favorites and own a piece of sports history for you and the loved ones on your shopping list this holiday season. This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Now, live and direct from the press box at Old Comiskey Park, it's time for When Football Was Football. Let's join your host, Joe Ziemba, with another forgotten tale from Chicago's pro football history. Let's go!
Thank you very much for that great introduction, and welcome to this episode of When Football Was Football on the Sports History Network. I'm your host, Joe Ziemba. This program is the first of several bonus episodes where we're going to take you back to this date, 75 years ago in 1947, as the Chicago Cardinals were hopefully preparing for a shot at the National Football League Championship at the end of the month. Today we're stopping at December 7th, 1947, when the Cardinals are poised to face the Eagles in Philadelphia. It had been quite the up and down season for the Cardinals, who started out with a very nice 7-1 record and a comfortable lead in the Western Division of the National Football League. However, the previous 2 weeks, the Cardinals had stumbled at Washington as well as at New York, dropping to 7-3 and falling a full game behind the rival Chicago Bears in that Western race. Before that 2-game skid, the Cardinals were really the toast of the league. In fact, the Washington Times-Herald newspaper wrote, "The Cardinals, of course, have been the sensation of the league. From the orphans of the league, they've suddenly developed into the greatest drawing card, and they've already played to over 180,000 people in 5 home games." That 7-1 record was a little out of normal for the Cardinals, who really suffered in terms of wins and losses during the 1940s. In fact, during the war years, the Cardinals suffered a 29-game losing streak, which is still the longest in the history of the National Football League. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears racked up 4 National Football League championships in the early part of the 40s. So, the two teams, which had once been going in opposite directions for a long time, were now competing head-to-head for the championship of the West. The Bears were just a game behind the Cardinals leading up to those games on November 23rd, and the Bears were 6-2 compared to the 7-1 record put together by the Cardinals at that point. And while the Cardinals were dominating on the field, they were also traveling in class as well. For example, the Football Digest said, "Another reason for the Cardinals' gentlemanly bearing is that they are in fact gentlemen. There is no formal bed check when the club goes traveling, no training table, no don't smoke or don't drink pronouncements. The Cardinals travel in style and live up to their surroundings. The club helps. On a typical Cardinals road trip, a couple of Pullman cars are requisitioned by the team. Everybody gets a lower berth. Meal allowance is $5.50 a day, equal to tops for the league. The players stay at the best hotels in cities throughout the circuit." So as the team prepared for a long 3-week road stint, traveling to Washington, New York, and Philadelphia, the team hoped that playing against these teams that didn't have the best of records would really enable them to take full advantage and grab the Western Division Championship, thus qualifying for the NFL Championship game. On November 23rd, the first of these 3 stops, the Cardinals met Washington with just a 2-6 record. But it was Sammy Baugh Day. The legendary quarterback of the Redskins was presented with a new car and then proceeded to take out the frustrations of the entire season on the poor Cardinals. Baugh completed 25 out of 33 passes for 355 yards and 6 touchdowns, which at that time was tied for the most ever thrown against the Cardinals in one game. The Redskins won easily, 45-21. After the game, a shocked Cardinals quarterback, Paul Chrisman, discussed Sammy Baugh in his game that day. He said, "How about that, Sammy Baugh? Before the game, he gets a new car. During the game, he completes 6 touchdown passes. After the game, he hasn't even got his uniform pants dirty. And this is the first time I've been off my back all afternoon." For now, the Bears and the Cardinals were tied in the West, and no one could have been happier than George Halas, the coach and owner of the Bears, who stated, "I don't know whether the Bears can win the Western Division race, but at least the matter now is in our own hands. Before the Cards lost, we just had to hope for a break. Now it's up to us, and I think we've got a very good chance." On the following Thursday, the Bears actually took a lead in the conference when they played on Thanksgiving Day and defeated Detroit. The Cardinals were off that day, but on the following Sunday, they traveled to winless New York, where the Giants were 0-7-2. And the Cardinals had already beaten New York 52-21 in a preseason game, and really there was nothing at all to expect that the result would be any different this time. Instead of an afterthought, the game with the Giants was now really important. In fact, the Chicago Tribune wrote, "The loss to the Washington Redskins last Sunday has placed the Giants contest, as well as the one with the Philadelphia Eagles next week, in the category of serious business." The Cardinals realize that if they are to remain in the running for the Western Division Championship of the National Football League, the Giants and the Eagles must be defeated. But in the shock of the season, the Giants defeated the Cardinals 35-31. And with the Bears winning in Detroit, the Cardinals were now out of first place, and it seemed like their championship hopes were certainly diminished. Unfortunately, the Chicago media all but wrote the Cardinals off. Wilfred Smith of the Chicago Tribune wrote, "Although the Cardinals already may have lost the Western title, the players can salvage respect." And the Chicago Daily News called the Cardinals the Jekyll and Hyde of the National Football League and said, "Just how the Chicago Cardinals have disintegrated from the most powerful team in the National Football League to a literal pushover is the puzzler of the year." But now it was on to Philadelphia with just 2 games remaining in the regular season. The first place Bears were 8-2, while the Cardinals a step behind at 7-3. And things did not look good for the Cardinals in the first half against the Eagles, trailing 7-3 with running back Steve Van Buren of Philadelphia scoring the only touchdown. Normally, Coach Jimmy Councilman of the Cards would give a very inspiring pep talk at halftime, but he didn't say a word. And afterwards, one of his players asked him, "How come you were so quiet at the half?" And Councilman replied, I didn't have to. I could see on your faces what you were thinking. There goes the championship, right out the window." And maybe that was the thing the Cardinals needed. They inspired themselves, perhaps, and just mauled the Eagles in the second half, winning 45-21 to keep pace a game behind the Bears. But then the good news came back. The Los Angeles Rams had upset the Bears in Chicago 17-14. This left the Bears and the Cardinals both tied for the division lead with 1 game left. The Cards' victory over the Eagles was a tough one. In fact, John Carmichael, a writer for the Chicago Daily News, wrote, "It was a bitter, bruising battle full of elbows, sly fists, twisting hands, and nervous knees, as the Cards won their National League game from Philadelphia. The distraught officials handed out 214 yards in penalties, piling up more yardage with the ball than most of the ball carriers. So now it was on to Wrigley Field in Chicago, where the Bears would entertain the Cardinals in a game where the winner literally would take all. As the defending champions of the National Football League, the Chicago Bears were confident, while the Cardinals were still looking for recognition in their own city. Please join us on December 10th for the next bonus edition of When Football Was Football, when we'll share some unusual occurrences that took place as both the Bears and the Cardinals were preparing for that big game that would decide the Western Championship. It would turn out to perhaps be the biggest game in the history of the Cardinals organization, and one that was nearly derailed by the presence of a folding chair. Thank you, and please join us on December 10th here on When Football Was Football.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.